Good evening from the State of Kuwait. Welcome to the 7 o'clock news for Friday, the 13th of February 2015. I am Dalia Badran with the headlines for tonight. The First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister will head Kuwait's delegation to the extraordinary ministerial meeting of the Gulf Cooperation Council due in Riyadh tomorrow. The United Nations Secretary General issues a new warning that Yemen was headed towards disintegration. The so-called Islamic State militant seized control of parts of the western Iraqi town of al-Baghdadi as the UN tightens its crackdown on the group. More than 5,000 mourners pay tribute to the 3 Muslim students killed in a brutal attack in North Carolina. Hello and welcome. First Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Sabah is scheduled to head the State of Kuwait's delegation to the extraordinary meeting of the Foreign Ministers of the Gulf Cooperation Council that is due to be held tomorrow in the Saudi capital Riyadh. The GCC has not revealed the agenda of the meeting, which coincides with the various significant international and regional developments, namely the events in Yemen. Supported and attended by the Minister of Information, Minister of State for Youth Affairs, Sheikh Salman Mahmoud Al-Salim Al-Sabah, a workshop was held for upper-level managers at the ministry and its affiliations. Acting Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Information, Faisal Al-Mutlaqam, said that the workshop leaders and change is the first at the level of leadership in the Ministry of Information and the Ministry of State for Youth Affairs and the institutions of the two, which aimed at the development of administrative work in the ministries. Al-Mutlaqam added that the workshop was part of the government's efforts under the guidance of the Prime Minister, His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mubarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah. Here's more on the event in this report by Salim Al-Kandari.
Supported and attended by Minister of Information and Minister of State for Youth Affairs, Sheikh Salman Mahmoud Al-Sabah, a workshop was held for upper-level managers at the ministry and its affiliations.
It's based on the proverb that has been written by Einstein, who said that if you do what you do again and again the same way and you expect different results, it's a big mistake. Today we are gathering, sort of brainstorming with all the leaders of the Ministry of Information and the State for Youth, just to think together how to deal with the variables, with the dynamic Kuwaiti society, and how to come up with the best creative solutions to be up to standard to the expectations of the Kuwaiti society. It based on sort of analysis, what we call situation analysis. We did our homework through the last 3 months just to come up with what is the full picture and the reality of the Kuwaiti society, to be able to find creative solutions out of the box, how to make your communication more effective, more efficient, and how to deal with the most important category now or segment in Kuwait society, the youth. How to deal with them, because you know that the scene is totally different. The court and the game of the rule of the game is totally different. You cannot deal with the new generation with old thoughts or with old rules of thinking.
The workshop was intended for top managers at the Ministry of Information, Ministry of State for Youth Affairs, KONA, the Public Authority for Youth and Sports, and the National Council for Culture, Arts and Letters. This workshop is intended for top management at the Ministry of Information and Ministry of State for Youth Affairs. It is to brainstorm ideas and to communicate between the top leaders and how to solve issues, especially regarding youth. From the Al Jumeirah Hotel, this is Sam Kandiri reporting for the English News.
Thank you, Salim. Al-Qaeda-linked fighters seized a large army base in a dawn attack in southern Yemen hours after the United Nations warned that the country was on the brink of civil war. According to sources, the base in the southern province of Shabwa, housing a brigade of up to 2,000 government soldiers, fell after several hours of heavy clashes. The United Nations warned that while progress has been made in Yemen, talks on a political settlement, the country is on the brink of a civil war and conditions are conducive to allowing Al-Qaeda militants to strengthen. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and his special envoy to the country, Jamal Ben Omar, warned that Yemen was collapsing and called on the international community to do everything possible to help Yemen step back from the brink and get the political process back on track. Iraqi Foreign Minister Ibrahim Al-Ja'fari asked the New Zealand government today for support in fighting the so-called Islamic State militants, but insisted his country does not need frontline troops on the ground. Al-Ja'fari, who met his counterpart Murray McCulley in Auckland, said that he was looking forward to receiving support from the international community, including New Zealand. For his part, McCulley said he outlined New Zealand's contribution in the region and was also considering providing other support such as training.
Iraq confronts. I have taken the opportunity to outline for Dr. Al-Ja'fari the process that has seen the New Zealand government already make some humanitarian contributions to the challenges in the region, but also the process by which we are giving consideration to delivering other support. The challenges that you are all...
The so-called Islamic State militants seized control of parts of the western Iraqi town of al-Baghdadi, close to Al-Assad air base, where 320 U.S. Marines are training Iraqi soldiers. As the U.S. and coalition military forces continue to attack the terrorists across the country, officials said that 5 civilians were also killed in bomb attacks in 2 towns south of Baghdad. The resolution calls for sanctions on individuals and companies trading oil produced by the so-called Islamic State, which controls about 1/3 of Syria and Iraq and other extremist groups. The United Nations Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, said today that the embattled President Bashar al-Assad is also part of the solution to the ongoing crisis in Syria. The UN envoy met al-Assad earlier in Damascus to discuss the diplomats' proposal for reducing the violence, starting with the hostilities freeze in the northern city of Aleppo. The Mistura did not disclose details of the meeting, but state-run news agency SANA has said the two discussed new details in the UN plan to freeze fighting in Aleppo in a positive and constructive climate. During a news conference with the Austrian foreign minister in Vienna, the envoy also praised the efforts of those countries that are coping with the influx of refugees from Syria, saying that the crisis has destabilized the entire region. Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad Malki met his South Korean counterpart in Seoul today to discuss various issues, including Israeli-Palestinian relations and the situation in the Korean Peninsula. The Foreign Ministry in Seoul said in a statement that the meeting was also aimed at developing cooperation and inviting Palestinian diplomats to educational programs in South Korea. Malki is visiting South Korea for 5 days and is also scheduled to meet the South Korean National Assembly's Foreign Affairs and Unification Committee Chairman and Korea International Cooperation Agency President. In Libya, forces loyal to the internationally recognized government appeared to be gaining ground in the area south of Benghazi today. A military commander said his men had managed to recapture the Special Forces military compound in Boatni, south of Benghazi, which was previously controlled by extremist militias. The operation in multiple areas around Benghazi started early on Saturday, with ground troops being backed up by the Air Force. Widespread militia violence plunged Libya into chaos less than 4 years after a NATO-backed uprising toppled longtime strongman Muammar al-Gaddafi. In the latest sectarian attack to hit Pakistan, at least 19 people were killed and more than 40 wounded today in a militant attack on a mosque in Peshawar. The Pakistani Taliban has claimed responsibility for the attack, in which a suicide bomber blew himself up inside the building. Pakistan's information minister said that there was also gunfire in the immediate aftermath of the explosion. The attacks came as Pakistan tries to adopt new measures to tackle militants following a massacre of 134 children on December 16th at an army-run school in Peshawar. More than 5,000 people came to the funeral of 3 young Muslims in the U.S. state of North Carolina after they were killed allegedly by a neighbor. The mourners paid tribute to Barakat Yusr Muhammad Abu Salha and Razan Muhammad Abu Salha, who were gunned down in their apartment. The victim's upstairs neighbor turned himself in and has been charged in connection with the killings. Fighting was continuing in eastern Ukraine today in villages and along the road leading northwest from the contested town of Debaltseve, where Russian-backed separatists have been trying to cut off government forces for the past few weeks. Ukrainian military vehicles were seen passing along the road in both directions outside the Artmovsk, northwest of the town, as well as further down the road towards the contested area. The Ukrainian soldiers also claimed that separatists had shelled the villages of Mironovsky and Troitskoy using mortars and self-propelled artillery. Meanwhile, the head of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe expressed concern over the continuation of fighting in eastern Ukraine, saying that he hoped hostilities would be halted ahead of the weekend ceasefire deadline that both sides agreed to on Thursday. Anti-government protesters clashed with police in Venezuela's Caracas during a march on the anniversary of last year's bloody protest movement. Last February, opposition leaders called masses of supporters into the streets, setting off months of violent protests that resulted in more than 40 people being killed. Dozens of protesters remain jailed, while the social issues they rallied against last year, a faltering economy, widespread shortages, and violent crime, have only got worse. Today, the protesters threw objects at police officers clad in riot gear, who responded with tear gas canisters, while violent clashes also broke out earlier in San Cristobal, an anti-government stronghold in western Venezuela's Traquira state. In India, a train derailed after hitting a bolt that had fallen on the track in the southern part of the south of the country today, killing at least 11 people and injuring dozens. Officials said at least 42 people were hospitalized, including 17 in serious condition after the accident near Bangalore Accidents are common in India's vast rail network, which carries 23 million people every day. They are often attributed to human and equipment errors. And finally tonight, Indonesian Society Forum in Kuwait organized the second Badminton Open Tournament in collaboration with the Indonesian Embassy. The Open Tournament, which was held at Jawharat Al Saleh High School in Al Regay area, included teams representing nationals residing in Kuwait from various countries. The one-day activity aimed at encouraging the public to stay active in sports and stay healthy. Here is more on the event in this report by Salim Al-Kandari.
In collaboration between the Indonesian Embassy in Kuwait and the Indonesian Society Forum, the second annual Open Tournament was held this time with the increased number of participants.
I would like to introduce you about this tournament. This tournament is held by the Indonesian Embassy and the Indonesian Badminton Club in Kuwait. This Open Premier is bringing the players from 7 countries, around 80 players from 7 countries who resides in Kuwait. This is the annual program from the Indonesian community who loves badminton, IBCK in Kuwait, and we are from the embassy. We are very proud of this program, and we hope that everybody in Kuwait can enjoy and probably in the future can join as well in this program.
See, this tournament is participated by 8 countries. There is British, there is Indian, there is Egyptian, and all nationalities coming together with us. This tournament is divided 2. There is professional title and there is advanced title. For professional, there is 12 couple. It will come here and join. And for advanced, it will be 32 couple. It is very crowded and a lot of people coming here. For Indonesian Badminton Club, this tournament it is very important because every year we are coming and doing this tournament. This is the second time.
For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. Before we end, here is a quick reminder of today's headlines. The First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister will head Kuwait's delegation to the extraordinary ministerial meeting of the Gulf Cooperation Council due in Riyadh tomorrow. The United Nations Secretary General issues a new warning that Yemen was headed towards disintegration. The so-called Islamic State militant seized control of parts of the western Iraqi town of al-Baghdadi as the UN tightens its crackdown on the group. More than 5,000 mourners pay tribute to the 3 Muslim students killed in a brutal attack in North Carolina.